If you're in the Season of Conquest, then you've got the Cavalry Wheel of Fortune, and I want to help you walk through your choices. 2 are good, 1 is just so-so, and the other is pretty bad. So stick around in this video for guidance on which commander you should spin for your account in the Season of Conquest Cavalry Commanders. Hello my friends and welcome back, I'm Chisgule Gaming, and this video has been sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms, and today I'm going to break down which of these legendary cavalry commanders are actually worth spinning, and I'm just going to kick things off by saying, don't spin for Khan. His role is pretty much exclusively for PvE content, and the other commanders are much better choices, and you may be just entering Season of Conquest and be thinking, but Chisgule, I was already working on Khan. Shouldn't I finish the project? I don't know about that. You'd have to be really close to expertise, and even then, it's a commander that you will eventually want to move away from. So this leaves us with 3 options: XY, William, and Takeda. And I would say the option that is good, but not great, is Takeda. Now, Takeda is good in a number of combinations. Obviously, Attila Takeda can be used to trade positive in a number of situations, especially if you have been spending on Season of Conquest technology, you have more troops, and you think that lower power players are going to swarm you. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of kills. Also, Saladin Takeda is a surprisingly tanky option that does pretty decently, and there's even people who would advocate that you try to use XY Takeda or Chandragupta with Takeda. There's some interesting combos out there. What I'll say is that he is pretty tanky, and you can do some kind of cool stuff with Takeda, but he doesn't make my top marches. Not in Canyon, not in the open field. Not to say that he isn't good, not to say that I won't use him and have some role for Takeda, and obviously Attila Takeda for rallying cities is still pretty solid, but it is these other 2 commanders that should be your primary focus if you're looking at the Season of Conquest Cavalry Wheel, and that is XY and William. Now, I want to start with William because this is a commander I have been recommending for a very long time. In fact, when he came out, I said he would be amazing for free-to-play players, and I stand by that recommendation. There's 2 reasons why he's really good for this. First of all, he is offering a very, very powerful buff. It is giving you 50 rage per second for 3 seconds if you hit multiple targets, and that buffs himself and 4 other nearby marches. That's really good. He's also giving 20% defense to himself and those nearby marches. So it's a really solid buff on a cavalry commander. Rage and defense. It's very, very strong. And the best part about it is that even if you have him unmaxed at 5-5-5-1, so max the first 3 skills, leave the last one at 1, you still get 50 rage per second and a 10% defense boost. So for most people, just bringing William to 5-5-5-1 is really powerful. And you can combine that with the fact that you can pair William with Saladin, who you also can have at 5-5-5-1 and be very, very effective. So William is a choice I would recommend for a lot of people. And if you're coming into the Season of Conquest, you might already have been working on Saladin specifically to make this pairing. And I think that's a great choice. Saladin is very tanky. William does a lot of damage. The pair together is really very good. It's not people's #1 target in the open field these days, so I would recommend for a lot of people that if they want to have a Cav march, the one march that they should be looking at is that Saladin-William march, especially if you are low on sculptures, which most people, let's face it, really are. Which brings us to the final commander to talk about here, which is XY. Man, this commander really shook things up, and he is very good. I will be spinning XY. That is my current project, and that's because I have all the other commanders here maxed, and I specifically have not maxed XY yet because I've been using Saladin and William. And that march I find to be perfectly fine in the open field. I'm not saying XY William wouldn't be better. I think it would be. But the reason that I haven't yet maxed my XY, and I might for this upcoming battle, is that, you know what? I'd really like to get as many sculptures as I can from spinning XY before I commit a ton of universals to go and max him. Now, XY, unlike all of these other commanders, is actually a meta rally lead. I was going to say viable, but a meta rally lead. So I don't know if he will always be a meta rally lead. XY with Chandragupta has been amazing in the field and for rallies for what feels like many seasons of KVK now. So he is very strong, very, very strong. He's good in the open field, but the biggest complaint I have heard about using XY is that he is relatively squishy. He has nothing that really helps him be tanky. He'll get a little bit of march speed if he's getting hit, but for the most part, like, he's got attack, he's got some stuff for rallying, and he's got a rage reduction and a damage boost. He's also got AoE damage and a defense reduction that is AoE, which is really good, by the way. But, man, you pair him with William, and they have no tankiness whatsoever. And I mention this because if you're thinking, who do I spin? Do I go for the William combo or the XY combo? I would make the argument that unless you are planning to make a very tanky set of cavalry gear to support what you're doing, that Saladin William is probably the better choice, both for saving sculptures and for how, I guess, good the blend is of offensive capability and defensive capability. But because I've got this like really tanky set of gear right now, where every single piece is health or defense, I am in a position where I think I could run XY with William. And like, yeah, if I get focused, I'm in big trouble, but that it'll be tanky enough that I'm comfortable with it in the field and very happy using them paired together. So if you are one of those players who has a better set of gear or is looking to build toward rallying with XY sometime down the road, that is a big distinction. Even if it's a counter rally, by the way, that's a big distinction between XY and William, is that he is meta for rallying, whereas William is not. XY, you probably want to max out. The expertise skill is good enough that, like, yeah, you know, the 20% extra skill damage you're getting here is, it's pretty solid. You don't have to have it, but it's probably worth having. Compared to William's boost is moderate as well. It's good, but maybe is not quite as necessary to expertise William as it would be to expertise XY. And one final piece of advice I'll offer around XY specifically is that when you look at the value he's bringing, he is giving you an AoE defense reduction. That is on his active skill. But active skills do not stack. So something you might run into as a concern if you're already using Ethelfled in your murder ball is that the defense reduction from XY is not going to stack with the defense reduction of Ethelfled. It is not going to stack with the defense reduction of Ramses. So just keep that in mind if you're considering XY, thinking, oh, I'm going to have all these things that reduce the defense of the target. Maybe. I mean, if they're staggered, then you will. And if they all line up at the same time, then you lose some efficiency there. Granted, XY is doing AoE debuff. So, yeah, the AoE defense reduction is pretty good. So is Ethelfled, right? Ramses is more single target. So if you're stacking XY and Ramses, I mean, at least the XY is going to hit the other stuff too, presumably. So more than one thing is getting a defense reduction. But maybe I'm getting a little too in the weeds here. I will say one last thing about XY before just going back and summing everything up, which is that you can use him unmaxed. And I personally am choosing not to, because I already have the Saladin. And a lot of people who are entering into the Season of Conquest may be thinking, well, could I pair together XY with Saladin to make a more tanky pair? And the answer there is a definite yes. There are people in my kingdom that are doing that. They report that it's really fantastic to use in the open field. And so if you wanted to build toward having a rally commander or having AoE damage, this is what you wanted, you're really interested in XY, you can do that without the William behind it and still get a really tanky option with Saladin and XY. And the Saladin doesn't need to be maxed. 5/5, 5/1, and you're good to go. So both of these commanders, William and XY, have some great options. I would not really recommend Takeda at this time, even though I've been hearing about some really funky stuff with Takeda being used in situations where I really wouldn't have considered him. But I would not recommend Takeda. I would really not recommend Khan. almost for any reason at all, unless you're trying to, I don't know, after you've already maxed the other commanders, make sure that if his garrison, or if one of his skills shows up in a bastion, not a garrison, that you can, you know, in Heroic Anthem, have his skill available. I don't know. It just feels like such a weird investment, right? So I can't really recommend Khan to you at this time. But I'm eager for your thoughts down below in the comments. When I did a poll earlier today in my live stream, the majority of people were, in fact, planning to spin William or XY. I think that somewhere in the realm of 14% were planning to do Takeda, and about 7% actually said they wanted to do Khan. I don't know if that's just for memes, but I certainly would not recommend that. If you enjoyed the video, found it helpful, throw a like on here, subscribe to the channel. We've got crazy KVK battling coming really soon, and I have a whole series reviewing which commander you should spin from the wheel. I've got the leadership wheel. I think I've done the archer wheel. Yeah, I've done that. And I'll do the infantry wheel when that rolls around really soon. So subscribe so you don't miss it. Check out those videos. And until next time, you have fun smashing your enemies and good luck spinning the wheel.